Hello, this is David Erler from Harlan Alliance School of Martial Arts. Um, Today, I want to tell you my story of how I got into the martial arts and where I came from and hopefully where I'm at and where I'm going. Um, when I was about 5 years old, my mom brought home a short-statured, half Italian, half Chinese guy who was dating my mom for a while. So one day from school, I came home crying, the kids are bullying me, and he asked me if I wanted to learn how to defend myself. And of course, I said yes. And this was back in the middle to late 60s. I was born in 1961, so this was about 1966-ish, around there. And his name was Ricky. Well, that was his American name. Anyway, so Ricky and I trained what he called the Black Tiger style of Kung Fu. And to this day, I have not found any references to this, but we learned, or I learned, a lot of ninja weapons and nunchucks and staff and swords and three-sectional staff, throwing stars, and all kinds of weapons. And he said that this style was a very special style of Kung Fu that wasn't taught to just anyone. And I trained with him for about 6 years. I was about 12 years old when he just left. Come to find out that he went back to China, and he had mailed me a scroll certificate. A scroll certificate I had to have translated to English, and it said that I was of the rank of Sifu, which is instructor. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. But at that time, I didn't feel that I had actually learned enough. To me, just still a beginner. Granted, I knew a lot of kicks and punches and strikes and how to use a lot of different weapons, but I didn't feel that I knew enough. So after that, I went to a judo school for a while, and I went to jiu-jitsu school. I went to Tong Soo school, and one of the schools that I went to, my mom and my grandmother, they were doing some shopping next door, and I went into the martial arts school, and I met this man named Chuck and a bunch of other people. Come to find out later on that was Chuck Norris, the guy that I met. And he had a school in the hometown that I lived in at the time. Well, because of finances, I wasn't able to go to his school. But how I actually met him is I had gone inside and I had watched, and I went outside and I was showing off my mom and grandma, and I did a kick, and I I slipped and I fell, and I hit my head on the concrete. Didn't knock myself out or anything, but Chuck and a couple of other students of his and heard about my fall, and they came outside and made sure I was okay. So that's how I met Chuck. I met Bruce Lee a couple of years later at a tournament that my instructor had taken me to in L.A. In the L.A. area, I know that, and I watched Bruce do some demonstrations on the 1-inch punch and how he can knock somebody into a chair and some other things. And afterwards, I was taken backstage, and I met Chuck Norris, and I met a bunch of other people that are now famous in the martial arts. Hey, I was just a kid. I met, can't remember all their names, but I do remember Ed Parker. He was a very nice gentleman, very, very sweet, and he patted me on the top of the head and said, "How you doing? How's your martial arts going?" And at that time, I'm just, "Oh, cool, yeah, I'm doing great." He said, "Someday you got to come to one of my schools," and of course, I said sure, but I never had a chance to. So I went to some schools and I did as much training as I possibly could. I studied with one of Chuck Norris's students that was high-ranking black belt for about a year or so, and really not got too far from him because again it was finances. But one day I had a little motorcycle accident, and this was when I was about 15, and I crushed my foot between my motorcycle and a car, and I was on crutches for a while. I hobbled down to the local 7-Eleven, got something to drink, and then I was going to go up to the sandwich shop that I knew on the corner. On my way to the sandwich shop, I hear this crash, and I'm like, "What the blank is that?" And I poked my head in the door, and I see this small guy. He must have weighed about 120 pounds. I mean, he wasn't much taller than me at the time, and he was breaking river bottom stones. And there was a stone here, another stone sitting on top of a plate of metal. And he was breaking these stones, the top stone, with a ridge hand, with this part of his hand. And I hear this, pow! And that stone went into like a million pieces. So I go, wow, I want to learn that. And sorry about that. He must have heard me, and I talked to the guy's name was David, and his last name was Shaneen, and at that time I didn't know what his rank was or anything, but he started talking to me, and he said he was just opening up this martial arts school, and he'd like me to come to his school as soon as my foot got better for me to be able to walk and stand on it and do the things required in his class. And he's Lebanese, and he had come to this country because he married a ballerina that was an American, and he wanted to get away from the war stuff that was going on in his country, which I don't blame him. War is a bad thing. It's just, he did good by by moving. And after a while, I stayed with him. I got my first degree black belt back in 82 or something like that. Got my second one in no, it was first degree black belt was 1980, and I got my second degree black belt in 82. I got my third degree black belt in 89, and I trained with him, and I trained with his brother and his other brother, who were all in the master ranks, fifth, sixth, and the Grandmaster David Shanin. He's a ninth degree black belt. He also has his own federation. Well, my wife's mom came down with breast cancer, and she wanted to come out to Texas and help her mom go through all the surgeries and stuff. And I got to talking to her and looking at what all is involved, and I knew it was going to be a couple of years. So I said to her, I can't just leave you out in Texas and try to do what I had to do here. And so I said, we're going to have to move to Texas. So in 96, my mom died, and which left me with some money. And my Grandmaster Shanin said, when you get to Texas, open up a school. Well, when I got to Texas and I opened up a martial arts school in 97 to 98, the school was going great until there was a big flood. There was a big flood in 98. There was a lot of water in the school, and I just couldn't afford to reopen or anything. I lost too much, and I couldn't. The area that the school was in really wasn't a flood zone. So at the time I opened it, we weren't thinking about, wow, the school's going to get flooded. But that just, stuff happens. So I lost everything in 98, and then for a short period of time I tried to, work out on my own, but life happens. I pretty much at that time just gave up on doing the martial arts. So period of time goes by, and I gained a lot of weight, and I got up to almost around 280, and I was at work one day, and I'm like bending over to pick something up off the floor, and I'm struggling. I'm just like, I just can't do this, and I think one day I'd actually ripped my pants. So I just said to myself, I got to do something to get myself back into shape. So I started looking for a martial arts school to start off with, and I found a martial arts school in the north side of San Antonio, and it was an ATA school, and I liked the instructor that was there. His name was Maisie, and Maisie's at that particular time 5th Dan in the ATA style of Taekwondo, and I really liked his classes and the way he taught. So I went there for quite a while, and then some weird stuff happened between Mesa and the people who owned the school. He decided to break away, and so I stayed with the classes for a little while. And the new instructor that came in, I just didn't like his methods, the ATA for me, I just mean for me, had a great program for the kids, but not so good of a program for adults, or at least for me. So, luckily or unluckily, the COVID hit, and that school had to close down because, hey, you can't punch somebody from 6 feet away and they go, ow. It just doesn't work. So, through the main part of COVID where you had to stay away from people and stuff like that, I did try to do some training on my own. But, when you're trying to do it with yourself and there's nobody around that can really help. So one day, my wife and a friend of ours are looking for a give me a second. Medical supply place, and this medical supply place was supposed to have a cane with a large foot on the bottom of it to help with stability, and so she could walk and stuff like that. So we were driving around, and I was just following the little blue dot, and it said, "You are here." And I look out the window. It's just a martial arts school. There's no medical supply place here. And well, let's go look for another one. Blah, blah, blah. And I look at the window and I see the signs, and it says Taekwondo and MMA and blah blah blah. And I go, wait a minute, girls. I'm gonna go see if they're open, and I'm gonna go talk to the instructor or whoever happened to be there. So I ran inside, and I talked to the guy that was there. His name was Steve, and I was like, "How you doing, Steve?" And goes on, and he tells me all about himself. He's a champion in the MMA, and he teaches Taekwondo, and he teaches the old style of Taekwondo, and he teaches the style of forms that I knew from the ITF, and I'm like, cool. I don't have to learn all new forms. I can just work on what I already know and try to get better. And he says, well, what rank were you when you came to a stop and when you stopped training? And I said, well, I was a 3rd degree black belt when I first got here to Texas. And he goes, okay, we'll keep you as a 3rd, and we're going to start working on you getting and training for the stuff that you need to know for you to become a 4th in his organization. And I'm like, wow, okay, when do I start? So I came to one of his classes a day or so later, and I really liked it. I mean, I loved it. And I'm like, wow, he reminded me so much of some of the old masters that I had learned under many, many years ago. So when I started with the Steve Ashcraft School of Martial Arts, I was pow. I mean, there I was. And granted, at first, I was pushing, at that time, I did lose a little bit of weight. I was probably I was about 160-ish. Well, I have been with him for over a year now, and I've gone from 160, and I just weighed myself just the other day, and I am, well, on that day, I was at 219. So, hey, there's 40 some odd pounds that I had already lost. And I'm like, cool. this is great. So martial arts can help you lose weight. I am currently a 4th degree black belt in his organization. My belt's got 4 little stripes, and I got my name on the other side. And I am starting to learn my next forms and the next things I've got to be able to do my 5th degree black belt. So that's my story up to date. It is October 15th or 12th. Well, it's in the middle of October of 2022. And in 2022, this is David Erler saying, "Yay, I'm doing great. I'm a 4th degree black belt, and I'm going to learn what I need to learn to become 5th. But in that process, I am also hoping to lose a lot more weight. I want to see less of me. I want my uniforms to be a lot looser and okay. Granted, there's some things that I'm going to be working on for quite a while, like just being able to stand up and touch the floor without having to bend my knees. When I first started a little over a year ago, I was barely able to touch my knees with my legs straight. Now I've gotten down to where about halfway down between my knees and my feet, so that's a big progress. I am kicking quite a bit higher. I barely could kick to my waist, and now I'm kicking about chest level. As far as front kicking, round kicking, whatever. But I'm getting there. And what I want to tell all you people is that it is very possible to use the martial arts to become a better you. And I am getting there. I'm becoming a better me. So, love y'all. May the force be with you. Live long, prosper, all that good stuff. Bye.